Hey Laura, okay, we're gonna get working on your heart and soul reading finally. Thanks for waiting, being patient. I realized that the day that you were posted, I had two other clients, and for whatever reason, something got messed up with the scheduling. So, like, one of the people didn't even receive their link, so I messed something up, and I deeply apologize. I have no idea what I did. This whole first half of this year has been very, like, overwhelming experience where I've been faced with lots of situations where just it's like, I don't know, there's not enough time in the day, and then me hurrying and making mistakes. So I really apologize for my error, and hopefully this reading will be helpful for you. I know with dating, a lot of times there's that urgency to want to, figure things out with someone. So I'm sorry for the delay. I'd like to offer you just the free access to the 12-week program this summer, because I know you're someone who enjoys astrology. If you'd like to be a part of it for free, I'm going to be sending out emails to you guys who have been waiting so that you can have the links and everything. And it's what it is we're going to focus on a single archetype each week. So first week will be Aries, and we'll go through the archetype by sign, house, ruler, and aspect. And then we'll have a Facebook group and homework and stuff where we can share insights and things that we've garnered. And it's a lot of fun. I belong to a few Facebook groups. It's a really fun way to use concrete examples to sort of understand the archetypes. So I'd love to have you if you're available. And you don't have to show up for the webinars. You can watch them at any time. So you can you don't have to actively participate. You can just have access to it if you want. So, okay. Now, what we're going to do today, we're going to get this reading done. We're going to look at first the two of you, and then we're going to put the two of you together. And you had mentioned you were wanting to get to know more about the synastry between the two of you. And I see your partner here. We've got an Aquarius, and we tend to, with people who, he's Aquarius sun with the moon in Leo, kind of a full moon baby. I've got a couple good friends with this exact setup, and they are like very dynamic people and highly individualistic. And so this will be a lot of fun to to pull his chart apart. I'm going to also make sure, let me get up here, one other thing. Make sure I get yours up here as well. So we're going to start first, and we're going to look at, like I said, this is the heart and soul reading. So we're not doing the synastry, we'll be doing the composite chart. And with the heart and soul reading, we're looking at the sun and the moon and Saturn first, kind of that parental triad, how each of you get your needs met emotionally, as well as kind of your boundaries. And then we're going to look at Venus and Mars, gives us a little feel for the yin and yang, how you behave in order to receive affection, and what you do when you want to go after something. And then also we'll look at the nodes of the moon. So, starting with him, let me get you up here too. Sorry, sometimes I have the wrong things open on my screen. Okay, let's start with your chart very quickly. Of course, we've read for you. We've done several readings for you, so I'm familiar with your chart. And with you, we've got that dynamic. The Sun in Aries at 28 degrees, conjunct Mercury. This is someone who is always going to be thirsting and hungering for information. And you've got Chiron in here as well, and Ceres. So this combination shows up in the charts of people who are hungry for information, for knowledge. They like to analyze. They want to also, there's a strong desire many times to understand the self. Your Sun in Aries actually is going to be trined by the August 21st solar eclipse. That'll be at 28 degrees of Leo in your first house. Looks like it's like right on the cusp of the first and the second house, like right on it. In the Porphyry house system, that is at 28 degrees. So I have yet to, I'm very curious about the solar eclipse, because this is landing on my ascendant and my Saturn. So they're considered sort of new phases, right? The idea. But when you think about what it is, the moon is lined up in such a way that it's blocking the light from the sun. So there's this quality almost of like a book. It feels like a bookmark, like a space-time bookmark of some kind, where it does feel like sort of a new chapter. But I'm yet to have a good way of sort of delineating it until sort of experiencing it. So I'm curious to see how things go for you. But that being said, you've got your moon in Cancer squaring all of your Aries planets, and it's in the 12th house. And so that combination can be, it can be one where we have a strong emotional nature and a sensitive emotional nature, and emotions can flood over us, and we can sort of like not know what to do with them. And there's an element of, with that being in the 12th, the Piscean quality of almost looking to other people to help us figure out what it is we're feeling. A lot of people with Moon in the 12th are very giving and compassionate, and they self-sacrifice for other people. But sometimes they'll do it without having kind of asked that other person if they want to be sacrificed for. You know, they can overstep boundaries when it comes to, you know, loving or giving to the partner. And you also have Saturn, you know, as well there in the 12th, widely conjunct the Moon. So, you know, with that can kind of come an element of emotional restriction, or, you know, there can be a little bit of our personal fears in the area of the Saturn and Cancer, in the area of belonging and being lovable. You know, can sort of, especially if this aspects your partner, then you know that they're going to trigger you. And with it in the 12th house, there's a great book that a friend just recommended to me, and I was sort of leafing through it, and it's called, oh gosh, I think it's called My Inside Story, My Inner Story. Anyway, Google Neptune 12th house, and I think it's My Inner Story, something like that. I think of the 12th house as far as past lives go, I think of it as like a black box. Planets that fall there, it's like we personified those in a past life. Saturn and the Moon, to me, feels like someone where their family was very important. You could have been a mother and maybe a dependent, you know, maybe someone who had a spouse. Perhaps you experienced the loss of your husband, the loss of your spouse in a past life, and you had to figure out how to kind of take care of things on your own. You know, you may have been like a pioneer, someone who lived out in the middle of nowhere, and, you know, had to kind of make do. So the need for a partner in this life is like really going to be sort of underscored. There tends to be a real focus on finding that mate, because you may have had one and lost that mate in a past life. So we can have these unconscious worries and fears also, though, about being abandoned or being, you know, without a partner and having to sort of survive it again. You've also got Pluto in your 3rd house, retrograde. So that to me says, Pluto shows where we have our deepest kind of desires, and people with Pluto in the 3rd have a hunger for knowledge. They need to know. They want to know, because it's almost like they didn't have enough information in a past incarnation. It's like on a very deep soul level, they feel as though if I would have known, I would have been okay. And in this life, you know, your South Node's in Gemini in the 11th. That is, I was disassociated from information. I didn't have enough information, ruled by your Mercury that's in your 10th house in Aries. So, like, you had to kind of figure things out on your own. You had to be enterprising. You had to be sort of like resourceful, basically. And the fact that Venus is conjunct your South Node, Venus in Gemini in the 11th, I mean, that could even indicate someone who you're going to personify the planets that conjoin with the South Node. So you may have been someone who was young, could have been a young girl. You could have been someone who experienced your partner cheating on you. There could have been that. Could have been how they left you. There could have been 2 women, like more than 1 woman. We would tend to see, I mean, it could have even been something where you were married to a partner and you lived in a little small community, and his mother was there as well, you know, like there was, or like, you know, you were married to someone and your sister was married to her brother, you know, something like that, or there could be these like themes of twins and that kind of thing. But point being, that Venus of yours, with it in Gemini, Venus and Geminis they're curious. They love new experiences. They love learning new things. They like to kind of bounce like a bumblebee from flower to flower. The way you're going to attract people to you is going to be through a bubbly, there's a bubbly quality, and a quality of like being ruled by your Mercury it's in Aries. There's passion there. There is also, you have to be careful about looking at things only from your own perspective, being too subjective with your partners, and or taking things from people, taking things personally. That's a Moon in Cancer tendency, is to take things emotionally, to take them on when they're not. It's not for you to take on. You know, it's other people's garbage. That's also a Moon in this 12th thing. So very loving chart with a lot to give, and playful. There's some playfulness in here. Your Mars, it's in Pisces in the 8th, is one, in your relationships, you may jump into things too quickly. You may like not quite realize when it comes to boundaries. I feel like Mars and Pisces individuals, it's funny, I have a good guy friend who's Aries, just like you, with a Mars and Pisces, and I might have mentioned this to you before, super sexy guy. Like, as far as that side of Mars, sort of the sensual, physical side of Mars, Mars and Pisces have this ability to just like know how to step into flow, which I think is very attractive. And with that Mars in Pisces as well, you've got it in the 8th house. Now what can happen there though is it can be one where we can be strategic with how we do things, or we can, with it in Pisces, we can try and sort of get our roots underneath someone else's foundation, kind of a thing, you know, in order to feel secure. And so we can jump into things or project onto our partner our fears, even our partner. Okay, so this guy I was dating that's got a similar chart to you, super cool guy. I had so much fun with him, loved hanging out with him. And he just like assumed that I wasn't into him because I'm not super aggressive, right? So if with partners, just be careful that you don't project onto them your emotions and your feelings and your fears about how they're feeling. Very good chance that how you're feeling, totally different than how they're feeling. Instead, allow them, just ask, you know, find out. And your Chiron conjunct Mercury tells us that your worldview is something that needs in this life to be sort of healed or fixed. Perhaps if we're seeing things from our own perspective and our own fears, and sort of like assuming the worst, or coming from that place of fear, instead of just being open and vulnerable in a healthy way, you know, with boundaries, but like realizing that no one can save me and no one can hurt me. Like, but here I am, full of love to give if you want it, like that kind of thing. And that's really tough. That is a tricky thing for a Venus or for a moon in Cancer, because especially conjunct Saturn, because of, you know, having experiences where you do that and then the person leaves you. So Mars in the 8th, there can be games that can be played, you know, like trying to control a partner. Even though it's a Mars in Pisces, there can be passive aggressive, I don't know, like overstepping of boundaries that can happen, or projecting fears onto the partner and then needing them to help us feel better, and that kind of thing. So, okay, so that being said, let's take a peek at his here. Get this better. I need to organize this a little better. Put you where I like you, right over here. Okay, so your partner, February 17th, 1981 is the birth date I have. 11:19 a.m. Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. Okay, so we have a lovely Sun conjunct Mercury, both at 28 degrees of Aquarius. Now, you guys both have your suns at the 28th degree, and they sextile each other exactly, which is lovely. The difference between Aquarius and Aries, they're both independent signs, but they go about independence in different ways. Aries has a spontaneity to them, and they have a quality of like, they're really focusing on their own initiative, you know. Not, you can have an Aries who's really selfish, that's a stereotype, or you can have an Aries who's super philanthropic and giving. The point is, they are not, Aries is not about thinking or feeling at what we're doing. It's just taking action and just doing it. That's spontaneity. That's Aries. But you also have a moon in Cancer in the 12th house. That's why it's a square to your sun, because that part of you is about being reflective. It's about going inward emotionally, and how does this making me feel? And then that's why when you have this type of square, sometimes it's hard to know what to do, even more so with the Mars in Pisces. I'm not quite sure what to do in this situation, you know, to take action. And so we can be, if we're not aware of our behavior, we can take action in ways that's coming from a very unconscious place. And, you know, we try, like I said earlier, doing things where we're manipulating people through being passive aggressive, or trying to indirectly control them somehow, or, you know, manipulation that all of us have done at some point in our relationships. The point is, you have a lot of love to give. And I love the fact that in his chart, he's got his moon in Leo. I actually really like the moon in Cancer, moon in Leo, when these two people come together, because Cancer is the mother and Leo is the child. Moon and Leo individuals need someone to validate how they're feeling. And when you have an Aquarius, it's a very independent sign and a stubborn sign, and they're not always good at admitting that they're feeling emotion, that they're feeling a need to be sort of loved and adored by their partner. So he may lead with the Aquarius part of himself, which might be a bit, could be intellectual. He could be someone who's kind of rebellious or sort of skeptical, someone who is needs to lead his life the one thing I think you will have issue with is your moon in Cancer needing to be reassured, and the Aquarius parts of his chart that really need to, he can't have anybody sort of telling him how to be. And that just doesn't work for, especially up in the 10th house. I mean, there's probably a person who's probably pretty focused on maintaining a certain reputation as an independent individual. See, he was born in 81. I wonder if he's ever been married before. Would not be surprised if this guy has not been married, because he does have sort of a, his angles are all in fixed energy. His sun and his moon are fixed. His Mars is in Pisces, but his Venus is in fixed energy too, and his nodes are also fixed. So there's a soul here that has kind of maybe been doing some of the same things over and over and over again. And when we look at his South Node, he's got that in Aquarius in the 10th. His North Node is in Leo. So it almost feels like someone who's been living a life that has been dedicated to perhaps the group or the collective or some sort of social cause. Could have been involved maybe in past lives and politics, like through being part of a revolution even, perhaps. The ruler of his South Node is his Uranus at the 0 degree exactly of Sagittarius in the 7th. So this is somebody who, in relationships, there can be a quality with Uranus in the 7th. Whatever lands there, we can project. A lot of times we'll project it outside of ourselves, onto partners, onto other people. And but it's ruling all of his Aquarius planets. So his reputation, how he sees himself, a big part of how he sees himself may come from outside of himself, from other people, from sort of their I suppose, opinions of him. I also kind of wonder if he gets into relationships with people that are a little crazy making, and then sort of blames the relationships not working on them. Like not owning his stuff. Mercury conjunct the Sun exactly retrograde is combust. It's Mercury combust the Sun. There are different takes on this. Many very smart and people who are known for their ability to communicate, like authors and scientists, have Mercury retrograde conjunct the Sun, just like this, like 0 degrees. So there's a good chance he's quite smart. The issue is they are subjective thinkers. They look at things from their own perspective, from their own. He's also a Venus in Aquarius. It's going to be from his own value system. You are never going to be able to change this person's mind on their value system. He can change it. Aquarius is this interesting archetype. They're they're always wanting to learn and to evolve and to push boundaries and to break down consensus ways of looking at things, right? But when they're sitting on an opinion that they've come to, they're stubborn, and they can be like adamant that they are right. And they can be know-it-alls, and that's being said by me. I'm totally a know-it-all, so it's no insult meant. Being ruled by Uranus at 0 degrees of Sagittarius in the 7th is, it's one where he may even find himself feeling like he needs to prove himself, prove his intelligence to other people, prove that he has the right answers. I'm curious what his thoughts are on astrology. Could kind of go either way, I suppose. Now, Moon in Leo in the 4th. I will say this, with Moon in Leo, it's you're Aries, so there's a nice flow of that spontaneous, fiery energy between the two of you. Leo moons they're playful, they're warm, they're fun, but they're about expression, emotional expression. And with it opposite all of his Aquarius planets, and also opposite his Venus, what he needs and what he wants in a woman are like two different things. So what he needs is like a woman who gives him devotion, who's devoted to him, and he's like the apple of her eye, and there's no other man. Like the way a mother loves a child. Like truly he wants that kind of emotional nurture. At the same time, with the Sun being in Aquarius, there's going to be a part of him that's really uncomfortable with that kind of intimacy. So with that being ruled by Uranus, it's over in the 7th house, I wonder if at times, like I said, he, in his relationships maybe sabotages them or has a hard time being committal because it may leave him feeling kind of vulnerable and exposed. I've also noticed with men with Moon in the 4th, they tend to be pretty close with their mother. And with a Moon in Leo, you could have someone whose mom kind of even maybe spoiled him, like doted on him and gave him everything that sort of that he wanted. Not necessarily the case, but it's possible. It's ruled by, he's got it ruled by a Sun in Aquarius conjunct Mercury. So there's even a quality here of him trying to rebel, trying to liberate himself from the mother, but this deep part of him that really likes, the mothering and the coddling that he perhaps received. And then when we talk about his seventh house with Scorpio over there, women outside of, people he dates, people he brings into his space, there's an element of him needing to heal his relationship to partnership, to partnering with others. That's that Pluto that's down in the 6th, Pluto retrograde even. And he's got Saturn and Jupiter retrograde too in Libra. So this is someone who needs to, he may have had some past life, like beliefs about relationship that need to in this life be fixed and kind of healed. And Pluto shows a person's, it's what they deeply are on a soul level. It's kind of where their soul is at. And the 6th house is a house of Virgo. So that's a house that, with the ruler of his descendant, Pluto, in the 6th, there is an element of relationships being where I either pull people into my space where one of us is doing all the giving, and the other one's doing all the taking. And there can be themes of, sort of servant-master relationships with that. Intimacy might just be something that, in general, for him is a little bit scary. The fear of being engulfed, having his identity sort of taken from him. I'm also curious, Pluto in the 6th individuals, 6th house Virgo has to do with analysis of information, and it has to do with even just with work, what we do for work, just on a day-to-day basis. It's very mundane, on a mundane level. But it's to what will we serve? What is it in this life that we'll find ourselves serving? I don't read for very many Pluto in the 6th people, honestly. And, maybe it's because they specifically are here needing to heal their relationship to other people, getting maybe assistance or help from other people, getting advice from other people even. With his Jupiter retrograde conjunct Saturn, this is someone who, in the 5th house, who needs to come to his own positions of truth, period. And so if he thinks that marriage is a dumb idea, then no one will be able to change his mind. If he thinks that any limiting beliefs he has about himself as well, you could be a little bit of a skeptic or a pessimist at times, in particular about how other people are maybe going to receive him. Maybe a little bit distrustful even of other people with the Saturn retrograde in Libra. So, on the other hand, with his moon in the 4th, a lot of times you have people who are, it's kind of like a Cancer moon, so it's similar to your moon that you have in Cancer. I just feel like between the two of you, if you can get to the space where we're sort of looking outside of the self, then this could be a nice, like I said, sort of there's that mother-child quality here. Yeah, you need to be prepared to be the one, you would be the one kind of doing the giving, I would imagine. And when I come back into your chart really quickly, you've got your Aquarius descendant, which a lot of times we're attracted to partners who are intelligent, we're attracted to people who are Aquarian many times. The ruler is down in the 4th house, that's ruled by Uranus. So, let's see something here. I mean, your Uranus makes aspects to, well, like trines, his planets are at the very end of Aquarius, and it trines his Mars as well, which can be really exciting and electrifying, but it can also be a relationship where there's kind of a quality of it being unpredictable, and one that, feels like it could be a little bit all over the place, on again, off again quality. I want to look at your moon really quickly. Your Cancer moon, it's really important that moon, whoever it is that you end up being with, that moon is being properly fed. And your moon's at 21 degrees of Cancer. Because your moon takes a lot of hard aspects from your birth chart. It's squaring all of your Aries planets. So we would want to see some water in this person's chart, or at least some earth that would make a nice flow. We've got Chiron at 13 degrees in Taurus. So there's, that makes a nice sextile to your moon. Your moon falls in his 3rd house. That kind of concerns me, though. Your moon in his 3rd can indicate, I've just seen this in different relationships, but it can indicate more than one woman, more than one partner. Not always, but there can be a quality of of him gaining different perspective on emotion, you know, like you're activating the part of his chart that has to do with gaining perspective. And sometimes that's to compare with other partners he's had in the past. His series in Cancer also says he hungers for women's affection. He hungers for, ruled by his moon in Leo, like he wants to be mothered by women, basically. But at the same time, he probably doesn't want to admit that he likes to be mothered by women because that opposes, you know, the Aquarius part of him that wants to be seen as independent and wants to be sort of even detached from the need to be validated by others, because that makes you vulnerable. That puts you in a position of vulnerability. So, interesting. Okay, now let's pull up. I'm going to pause right here. So we're going to pause right here, and then we're going to pull up the composite. And we'll do the Davison too, since you had to wait and there was this whole scheduling snafu. Okay, so on to part 2.